on a Mission. We're going to talk about this group program of yours. I'm really excited to dive in.
Thanks, Dallas. I'm glad to be here.
So, before we get coaching, you've been in the Hive now since March-ish. Does that feel about right?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh, yeah, time is so blurry these
I know.
days, but how has it been going for you?
It's been going great. I feel like I just in that short amount of time, I've made some um great connections with other people
Yeah.
in the Hive and also made some pretty significant steps forward in my business, most of which is just in my own head, understanding
Yes.
what I'm trying to do. But yeah, it's been really great.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's really the first, and I think the hardest part. Like, we've got to get our heads wrapped around this thing that we're doing. And once I really understand it, I can believe it's possible. And then taking the actions is kind of the easy part once those two things are done. So I hear
Yeah,
you.
so true.
All right. So I mentioned that we were going to talk about your group program. So walk me through, if I could knock your socks off, if we could knock each other's socks off and walk away from this conversation with you feeling exactly the way you want to feel, what do we need to work on?
So my two biggest issues are that and they're related. I get really
Okay.
easily overwhelmed because I'm thinking about all of the things that have to happen for like the ultimate end result. And I don't focus on the small steps that have to happen and like the first version of something. I just think of the final version. So overwhelm and clarity, they go hand in hand, but those are the things that I need help with for sure.
Got it. Now, you're a book coach, and I know you work with newer writers. How often do they struggle with this exact thing?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because writing a novel is so massive and really unwieldy, just like trying to create a business from scratch. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of overwhelm and knowing what you want the final version to look like, but also not knowing how to get there.
Do we want to mention anything around pricing? Like, this is for you if you've been wanting to work with me, Stephanie, and money has made it unattainable.
Yeah, it's definitely something for people who would like to work with a book coach at a lower price point.
Yeah. And still high touch. You want the high touch, intimate experience of working hand in hand with a book coach, and your budget has not allowed you to work with someone privately up until now.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Great. Okay. So this power group for today, and you can run with this if you want, but for today, we're calling it either Solid First Draft, that's the name of the group, or like First Draft Warriors or something like that. So the promise is now built in to the name of the program. That in and of itself is going to make it so much easier for you to enroll folks.
Okay, great.
This is for a first time novelist who has a book on their heart and wants to get the book written. They've probably been working on it or noodling on it for a while, and it's time to actually write. They respond well to peer pressure and they gain insight from others. Plus, they've been really wanting to work with you, Stephanie, and money up until now has stood in their way.
Yes, that
Okay.
sounds perfect.
So, when you work with private clients, what is the structure of that? Like, how often are we meeting? How much do we communicate in between? What is that? How does that unfold?
It varies a little, but for the most part, we meet every other week. They
Okay.
have a deadline where they send me pages and I give them written feedback. And then we have a call, usually later that same week, to talk through anything that's keeping them stuck. It could be mindset, it could be something to do with the story. Um, but yeah, that's the structure generally. And then they have
Okay.
access to me all the time via email or Voxer.
Okay. So let me make sure I caught that because you cut out a little bit. We're meeting twice a month. Before each meeting, I have a deadline to get pages to you. You review those pages and then we talk through The pages in our coaching sessions.
Yes. And they get
Okay.
written feedback too.
Oh, and they get written feedback.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, that's a lot of work for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So understanding that we're moving here into it's a lower price point. We're beginning to scale a little bit. So what needs to change about that format in order to serve a group? We can start at the top, like how often should the group meet?
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like the frequency is good.
Mm-hmm.
I could see possibly going to like once every 3 weeks or so, but further than that, to me, feels like we're getting out of a rhythm with each other.
Agreed.
And the part that holds me back, which I know is different for us than for some other coaches, but we have that written feedback, that those pages coming into us. That's definitely a time issue for me. So I would have to either not do that all the time, or I could see myself looking at pages on the call with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like sharing the screen, or just decreasing the number of pages, or decreasing the frequency with which they could send me pages. So there's some
Okay.
options
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So what is when you think about your clients, what for them is the big value of getting written feedback on the pages?
I think that the big picture feedback is what's important. So, especially in a first draft situation, it's not so much that they need my notes in the margin. It's more that they need me making sure that they're keeping on the track that they've established through their planning, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep.
So, and I can do that relatively quickly just by really just even scanning the pages. So I think the value is helping them stay on track, me being the person who's keeping an eye on the big picture while they're kind of in the weeds
Mm-hmm.
of writing. And also there's this mindset piece where if I'm looking at it and saying, here's what's working really well, that feeds their confidence in a way, because they're doing plenty of critiquing themselves already. But if I can point out, like, oh, you've really developed this character well, or you're doing a good job with setting details, that's helpful to them too.
Yeah, I get that. Right. Okay. So the big value here is what I'm hearing you say is there is so much to be gained from getting to that solid first draft.
Yes.
And the feedback that you can give members of the group should be designed to keep them writing more than designed to make the writing better.
Yeah, because the design to
Uh-huh.
or the making the writing better, that comes later in the process.
Later.
Mhm.
Yeah. Boy, there are a few ways that you can do this. I have an idea, but I'd just love to hear from you as we're talking. Does anything bubble to the surface around how to best structure the feedback part of this program?
I mean, this is where I get stuck, right? Because I have so many ideas.
Yeah.
I listed a few of them already, and I just am not sure what the best one is, or what the air
Mm-hmm.
quotes right one is. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I would love to hear your ideas, to be honest.
Yes. Okay. Great. So let's just agree that the only way you will arrive at the right idea is to start somewhere. That's why this is going to be the first group. Your your clients appreciate your expertise, but what they appreciate more is the fact that you are striving and improving in front of them.
Mm.
So let's just say you and I decided on a format right now about feedback, and you're a month and a half in and realize this is not serving people. There's only trust to be gained and appreciation to be gained by changing it mid-course.
Okay. I might need to write that on a Post-it note.
You know, I've been in business for a really long time, 20 years. And in the beginning, partially because I just started out quite young. I was 24. I don't know if you know this. I was 24 when I started my business, and I lied and told everyone I was 26 because somehow in my mind those 2 years made it a difference. But anyhow, and I was such a perfectionist, trying to like make up for my youth, but with like how much of a professor I could be. And as I've grown older, I learn over and over again that it's the striving that matters to people. So I want you to just write yourself a permission slip to get it wrong, because wrong is the first step toward getting it right.
I love that. And that's such a good analogy for the writers too, because that's what we're doing when we write a first draft is we're getting some things wrong, but we're on the path to getting it right. So I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I love the idea of a little bit of a mix and match in terms of how feedback is delivered. So I'm working this out in real time. Forgive me if it sounds a little muddled or messy. I think there could be 3 types of feedback that's provided. One would be peer feedback. And it's not just random feedback, because this is like amateurs leading amateurs, and that could be a total nightmare. But specific feedback, maybe it's I read Jonathan's pages and I answer 3 core questions. So I'm not giving notes in the margin or any sort of plot feedback, but just like what's working really well. I don't know. You, as a book coach, you could probably think of 3 core questions that we give each other feedback on, and I have a different partner basically in the off weeks. So if we're meeting the second and fourth Thursday of the month, on the first and third Thursday of the month, we review each other's pages. That's going to help me learn more about my own writing by needing to apply principles or feedback to someone else's writing. The second thing would be, I wrote down highlights. So twice a month, I'm going to get feedback from another student. Once a month, I'm going to be highlighted by you. And highlighted by you means, welcome everybody to kick off our power group session today. Let's highlight what's working. It's Dallas's turn. I'm going to share page 3 with you. Look at what she did in this transition, or look at how she's developing this character. So you're like praising me in front of others and using that as a tool to teach.
I love that. Yeah.
On a week where I'm not being highlighted, I'm being hot seated, where you provide feedback in real time. So there's no prep for you. Mm-hmm. I show up in the chat. I share the link to my pages. We see you in process. You're reading aloud and people are following along, and you're giving feedback in real time.
Yes, I could do that.
So what that looks like in terms of the submitting pages and you doing off the clock work, essentially, that would be everybody gets off the clock pages reviewed once a month from you.
Okay.
Because I would submit my pages, you would give the high level feedback, highlight what's working for my novel and Jonathan's. The next time we meet, it's Rebecca and Denzel, right?
Right.
And so it's rotation. So I'm getting feedback from you twice a month. Every time we meet, essentially, it's either real time or highlighted.
Okay.
How does that land for you?
Oh, my head is spinning a little bit.
I know, me too. I just got really tired when I finished saying that.
Yes. So just to clarify, so what you're saying is if we would meet twice a month.
Yep.
on a call. And on each of those calls, I would highlight two people and do hot seat with the other two people, and then
Yep.
flip the next time.
And then
Okay.
flip it.
Yeah, that makes a lot. I like that.
And
Because
let's
then
just,
everybody's getting something.
yeah.
And then in
And if I'm
between,
someone who's more introverted, I'm not hot seated every single time. It's
right.
also not a drag sitting there for 90 minutes or 2 hours watching you edit other people's stuff in real time. That's not that exciting,
Yes.
right? So we use
Right.
the highlights to uplift and praise the writers, but also as teaching tools so that everyone's learning as we move forward.
Yes. Okay, so then I have a question.
Yeah.
Where is there space for the kinds of conversations that we need to have about mindset and the inner critic and finding
Yeah.
time to write and all of those, which are a good chunk of the conversations that I have right now with my one-on-one clients on our calls.
Totally. Totally. So my thinking was, I'm going to take a step back for a moment. So for you and for our listeners, what's worked great for me with power groups, and if you're not sure, everybody, how to structure your groups, this is where I would recommend starting, is meeting every other week for 2 hours. It's a group of four. Everyone gets 30 minutes of coaching from me. So the way this might be structured would be every other week for 2 hours. We begin with our highlights. We move into hot seats. And then the second hour so highlights are pretty quick. It's like 10 minutes per person. You're hot seating 20 minutes per person. So there's your first hour. And then the second hour is where you discuss the inner critic and resistance and finding time and all of that important personal development that needs to happen if a single page is going to get written.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I think I was thinking that I was envisioning the hot seat stuff taking longer, but of course it wouldn't. Of course it wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay. Great. Yeah. Yes. I'm very excited. I want to go start right now.
I know. It makes me want to join the group. I'm not writing
amazing.
a novel right now, but yeah. And so this is, I think, as an action item for you if it resonates. Let this sit and percolate, right? So that it really becomes your idea and you may feel into where it needs to be adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will know very quickly once the group gets going if you have overestimated how much you can get done in that time, if you've underestimated it, if people are getting way more value out of the highlight part than you thought and you want to give that more time. But I think that this serves the group really powerfully and it, like, keeps it interesting for everyone for every meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
So is it okay to tell your first group that this is the first time we're doing it? Let's just see how it goes. Or do you see what I'm asking? Like, I have a hard time with that. And so I don't mind being honest and just saying this is kind of a beta test to see, or should I just let it be what it is and evolve with the group as we go?
Yeah. So I feel like nothing is ever bad news. And we can so easily, like, preemptively apologize when no apology is in order. And then set this like a weird vibe or weird, like, plant seeds of doubt in our students. So I can't stand the term beta. Anytime a coach says to me, like, I'm running a beta program, I think to myself, are you joking? If this is beta, you're so involved and committed and tuned in. It's the best version of this class because all you want is to make it better. So that this first power group, these are lucky people because they're going to get the best version of you. And they need to know that. Not this, well, fingers crossed it'll work. And I'm sorry if it doesn't. Forget that crap.
Okay.
So that's my biased opinion around it. I think you can present it to say, like, I've put a lot of thought and planning into this. We have the best intent, the promise of this program is a solid first draft. Here's how we're going to walk there, right? Here's the path we're going to walk to get there. And along the way, if I see that things need to adjust in service to your goal, of course we will make those adjustments, which is super different from, okay, this is a beta test, so I might, sorry, just to let you know, I might change things later. That we're not doing that.
Okay. That makes perfect sense.
Great. And how does it land for you when you hear me say the first time you deliver is the best version of you? Does that feel true to you?
It does. I used to be an elementary teacher, and I've
That's
often
right.
thought the first day of school was my best day of teaching because I was so hyper focused and had the day super planned, and I was really excited. And so, yeah, that really resonates with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Which isn't to say that future power groups aren't going to be good.
Right.
It's just it's a different part of your heart that shows up the first time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how are you feeling so far, given everything we've discussed?
Oh, I'm feeling really excited. This is a lot of clarity, and everything we've talked about. I know that I'll take it and sit with it and make it my own, but it just makes a lot of sense. It feels like pieces are falling into place. So
Yeah, great. So, why don't we identify some action steps for you to take in order to get this group filled? Some of those steps might be administrative, like scheduling the calls on your calendar or like writing invitation emails, and then others will actually be sales calls or direct invitations. So, what comes to mind for you in terms of this action list?
I think the main thing for me, I kind of know what behind the scenes stuff needs to happen as far as developing materials that I want to give them and things, but I feel unsure about like a start date and how to start talking about it, because I have discovery calls happening like in the next month that where I could potentially say I have this thing coming up, but I feel like I'm waffling around when it's going to start and I'm not ready. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what's bubbling up.
Okay. So if we didn't have to think about anybody else's schedule and you looked at your own goals and your own schedule, what start date would you choose if you got to pick any?
Probably the beginning of September.
Okay, great. So it's like back to school, right? Beginning of
Yeah.
September. Great. And then when would you like to have these meetings? We're going to meet twice a month. What day and time?
Um, Probably Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometime in the middle of the day. I don't know.
Okay,
That's not a
great.
good answer.
Great. Well, you don't have to know that now. So that
Okay.
we're going to put that as step 2. So step 1 is just iron out some of the behind the scene, the plan for the behind the scenes. You said you feel pretty clear about that.
Yeah.
Step 2 then is set the date and the schedule. I don't know if you've been on a Hive call lately, but we've suddenly hit this theme where I talk about my mullet, like on every call, my mullet comes up, and I'm about to talk about my mullet again.
Excellent.
um, my stylist is amazing, and I will move mountains to get an appointment with her when she's available. I wouldn't even dream of asking her to like stay open later or cut my hair on a Saturday. That is not how Katie rolls at all. So I make it work. The same is true for these writers, and it's actually more helpful. I've seen so many coaches never get their group off the ground because they send out a survey to all the people who said they were interested, asking them to pick a date and time, and nobody agrees. And then either the coach doesn't make a decision, or the people who picked their date when it isn't their date, they then decide that they can't do it instead of adopting the belief, the mullet mindset, we'll call it, which is I need a haircut, right? I need this group. My book is on my heart. I'm going to make it work.
Okay.
So and you just have to embody that and trust that the people who are meant to be in this group, they're going to be in the group.
Okay. So you're saying I should set the time. And when I invite people to join the group, I should say, we're going to meet on the first and third Wednesday of the month or whatever it is.
Yep.
At 1:00.
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to meet for 2 hours, the first and third Wednesday of the month from 1 to 3 p.m. And then
Okay.
well, could you do it in the mornings? And your answer is, I will open other groups as time progresses. Would you like me to put you on a wait list?
Okay.
Just like hold super firm to that, or it's just not going to get off the ground.
Yes. Okay.
Great. Okay. So step 1, we've got behind the scenes. Step 2, we're setting the date in the schedule and we're just holding that space. It's just 4 people. You can find 4 people. You've already found 8. So what is step 3?
To find the people.
To find the people. Bit that boop. That's such an easy step,
Yeah,
right? Find
just
the people.
an easy thing.
Okay. So what support can I give you around step 3?
Well, I went through Client Surge. So I understand that process. And my plan was to kind of do a mini version of that in late summer to try to fill a group.
Yep.
I think I understand what to do. I struggle with, I think I didn't have very good referral ambassadors the first time around. I just didn't ask the right people. And now I feel like I've kind of tapped out who I have to ask. And so, I'm a little worried about that, but that might be a different conversation for another time.
Yeah. So you can bring that into the Hive for sure, but you have a list of 200 people.
Yeah.
So here's what I would recommend doing. So at the time of this recording, everybody, it's June 14th, July. So we've got 90-ish days until the group begins. Start talking about it now. So inside Client Surge, there's a version of what's called the 9-word email. If you think about the email invites to your list, you could craft a 9-word email. I'm putting a group program together that starts in September. Would you like more information? Let's find out who's interested. You can start even having discovery sessions with them and get them reserving their spots. You can do that now.
Okay.
And then also in your social content, in your emails to your list, are you still doing your mini podcast episodes weekly?
Yes.
Yay. You can talk about this.
Okay.
Right? So even just talking about how there are some writers who need that community, the power of a healthy dose of peer pressure. There's an episode, right? How well you learn through watching others process. There's another episode. So basically building episodes around all of the benefits of this program.
Okay.
And then a quick little mention. I've got a group that's starting in September. There are only 4 spots. If you're curious to find out if it's for you, here's how to apply, or here's how to contact me.
Okay, great.
So I know you've been diving into the updated content training inside of the Hive, Content Confidence. The awareness ladder that people are climbing here is buying into the belief that they're worthy enough of working their book out in front of people, right? And B, a group is the best way for them to get the novel off of their heart and onto the page.
Okay. So I might have a series of podcast episodes which connect to my social media content that are all about the benefits of doing this program, but not necessarily selling it, just like the reasons why those things are important for writers. But then at the end, say the call to action is, I have this small group opportunity coming in the fall. If you want more information, here's how to find it.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yep.
Okay. That sounds, how long would you suggest doing that for? Like all the way up until it's full or?
Yeah. So it's hard for me to just give an answer that's going to be true for everyone because you could send this one email. You could reach out to people who you've already had a sales call with and couldn't afford you and have your group filled. It could
Right.
be that fast. It could also be a 90-day pain in the butt process for you. It will likely be somewhere in the middle.
Right. Okay.
So, understanding that you're creating content anyhow, how can you play the game of ensuring that every piece of content you put out between now and when the group launches connects either directly or indirectly? We'll play like 6 degrees of separation, right, to the value of the group.
Okay.
You know what's interesting about selling groups is because I can almost feel listeners thinking, but what about my privates? I don't want to ignore my privates. What I have found is there is a certain type of client who just knows that groups are not for them. And it doesn't matter if you offer privates, they will insist on privates with you. So the benefits are the same here. The promise is the same. It's just the delivery that's different. You're not going to lose out on potential private clients by leaning heavily into the benefits of the group.
Okay. That's a good point because I was sort of thinking about my private clients and how how to balance the once you've got more than one offer, how to
Mm-hmm.
balance when you sell what. I know that the idea is you get somebody on a discovery call and say, here are my two options. You could do a group or you can do one-on-one. But talking about it out and about is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just, when the outcome is the same and the delivery is different, I have found that it's way less complicated than we think. People self identify. I'm thinking of a private client I have who we have worked together now for 3.5 years. And I had one open spot in a power group and I wanted her in this power group. So I leaned pretty hard into recommending the group for her. And she was so clear. She's like, I don't do groups. I'm not going to like the group. The group will not like me back. No, do you? I didn't even tell her I worked with people privately. And she's just been a dream client all of this time. So the people, if what you want is to build your groups, promote your groups, the people who prefer privates will let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. Great. All right. So, what, if anything else, would you like to share or ask before we wrap up today?
I don't think I have anything. I think that I'm good. I think that I
Awesome.
have a really clear, an almost 100% clear vision of what the beginning group will look like and how to
Mm-hmm.
get there. And I just need to start taking action over the next
Yes.
90 days.
Yep. And so let's circle back to that mindset. All I'm doing is finding 4 clients. I know how to find 4 clients. I have 8 clients right now. This is not like some big fancy group and there's no mystery to filling this group. It's just client attraction and I already have a plan for that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes. And I will remember not to overthink it.
Yeah. Yeah, or you'll overthink it and then you'll stop and you'll take an action. Like it can be messy. This is your first group and
Yeah.
therefore it's the best. It's the
Right.
best opportunity for someone to jump into this because you are walking in with an open heart and open mind.
Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
coming. Oh, yay. Yeah, you're
This is so
welcome.
great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. For our listeners, if this has piqued any questions for you or any ideas, come on over to my Instagram page. I'm Dallas Travers Biz Mentor. We will have a conversation this whole week about small groups, how to structure them, what to charge, like how to get this train out of the station. So, Stephanie, thank you for bringing this forward. It's a really valuable conversation. And I cannot wait to hear about these lucky 4 people who get to be in your very first group.
Thank you so much, Dallas. I'm really excited to start.